I think we mentioned that we've exhausted the topic of augmented sixth chords. We lied. There are several different uses for these chords that merit discussion. You may want to check out musicstudent101.com. Click on Episodes, and check out number 85 for visual aids and notation. And now your hosts, Jeremy Burns and Matthew Scott Phillips.
All right, it is the first episode of 2020.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Let us talk of pleasantries and aspirations, Matt. What do you want to do in the new year? Do you have any big goals or anything?
I have some goals. I would like to get my performing ensemble off the ground.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, well, more on that to come when there's something to talk about. But there's that. I want to write more music, and get some more performances, maybe get some recordings or two, I like talking about aspirations more than resolutions.
Yes.
Resolutions sound very final and
resolute.
Yeah.
Often setting ourselves up for disappointment.
Yeah, I'm going to quit drinking. No, I'm not.
Maybe for a day or two in the new
Maybe
year.
for a day or two, yeah.
Well, that's cool, man. I think similarly over here. Just keep on doing what I'm doing. Hopefully, better.
I hope be better at it is always an aspiration, right?
And for this podcast, I certainly intend and hope to continue and make it through another year of great.
And be better at it.
And be better at it with musical discussions and be, I don't know, maybe more prepared or
something.
Craft our digressions in a better fashion, perhaps.
Well, it's interesting that you bring that up.
Yes, because I thought it would be fun to start off the new year on a sour note. Don't you think?
I mean, no, but we still can.
Let's get into it, shall we?
Sure. So we have our first bad review ever.
Yeah, and this is not just a bad review. This is 1 star.
Ooh.
Now.
So,
oh yeah.
I tried to do like a sad music and
we'll be using that diminished chord at some point here.
Oh yeah, I should have made it a diminished chord.
Do you want to read? This one?
I can read it.
Okay.
It's not long.
No.
Long-winded and unprepared.
and
that's our new tagline for the podcast. We're going to put that like
long-winded and unprepared. And this is from Driving for Knowledge. Only instead of an E at the end, they put an R.
Okay.
Driving for Knowledge.
Knowledger.
They might have been so upset with us that they didn't even take time to spell that right. Put it right in there. Hey, I'm not going to harp on this. I'm not going to be a snowflake here, you know what I mean? I'm fragile. But we've had 82 reviews, right? Or so, something in that neighborhood. They've all been completely 5-star.
392,000 downloads.
Yes, very close to 400,000.
So anyway, long-winded and unprepared. Listening to podcasts on my 45-minute commute. That's a fair commute there.
It is.
I am near my destination while these guys are still chatting about whether the Hey Jude ending has a key center. It makes me want to drive into a pole.
A pole? You want to drive into a pole?
Well, Hey Jude makes me want to. It's just a little off. But hey, that digression, I remember that digression. That was germane to the topic at hand.
It was. I have some theories about this person, about Driving for Knowledger.
Okay.
I think that this might have been the only episode that they've listened to.
It's possible.
Because they might have just been Google Mixolydian and this is what comes up. So they have no clue what it's like to hang out with us.
Yeah, we certainly don't digress about any other topics.
On the very first episode, it was no digression. It was just like me just going straight into the theory, and then
I remember doing episodes out of my lecture notes from class. Yeah.
And we decided that was kind of boring.
Well, our listeners decided that I mean they Driving for Knowledge is unfortunately a little bit in the minority for feedback that we've had, because everybody else seems to like that we digress a little bit, chat a little bit, which is why we sort of continue to do it. We haven't tried to clean that up because we feel like it's something that, with the exception of Driving for Knowledge. We feel like this is something that people seem to like, so...
So we're going to stick with it.
So we're probably going to stick with it. He's got us to rights. I mean, I'm sure... I don't know if it was 45 minutes or not, but I'm sure we digressed very much on whether Hey Jude has a key signature, a key center, and that's still a very ambiguous chord progression, and there's still a lot of debate over what that key center is, but...
It is.
Yeah.
But I will say that there might have been a little bit of hyperbole in this person's words. Because I went back and listened to it. I was like, holy crap, did we really talk about Hey Jude?
Sure, we didn't talk about it for 45 minutes. Come on, that's like a podcast.
The last mention of Hey Jude was 33 minutes in, and by 45 minutes in, we were already into the Jeremy torture.
Okay, so there you go.
Not well into the Jeremy torture, but into the Jeremy torture.
It's not what he says is untrue. Is what kind of gets me. Is that we definitely digress.
Yes.
We definitely meander on subjects, and we're definitely not going to stop. Sorry.
So yes, long-winded perhaps. Ill-prepared. I thought that's what editing was for.
Well, you're the editor, so
I know.
You tell me.
I guess I need to work on that better, huh?
It's like, I wish you guys could hear the unedited versions before Jeremy works his magic at it. You think I digress now?
Well, here's a little public service announcement. If you find our podcast makes you want to drive into a pole...
Please don't.
Please don't. Just turn it off. Go to another... There's some really good podcasts out there.
If he's looking for a podcast that's more strictly informative, then... there are definitely other ones out there.
Or if he or she is even listening to this right now, because...
Probably not.
if they heard us singing Itsy Bitsy Spider in harmony, they might have actually driven off of a cliff.
They may have definitely driven off a cliff, right, yeah.
And that was just the next episode. Okay, speaking of long-winded, I think we said plenty.
All right, yeah, we've covered that.
But I wanted to be transparent. I want people to hear us acknowledge the fact...
that, yeah.
We're not just going to have all these bad reviews and just not say anything about it.
And we're not going to completely ignore you if you criticize us. We've
had criticisms before.
Yeah, in general, we try to absorb all feedback.
But this is the first officially bad review,
This is the first officially, just bad review.
So I don't know why we have this celebratory tone to us. I don't know why we're so happy about this, but we're just having fun, We're having fun with it.
I don't know.
I think we're lucky to have gone this far without scathing reviews.
Yeah, and a lot of the critical feedback we've gotten is things that we already know. I'm not sitting over here harboring any delusions that I'm some great pianist. Okay? I'm aware of that. So yeah,
They didn't even say anything about your piano playing, man.
I know, right?
You could have let that go. All right, well, there we go. It is all...
There that is.
We got that over with. It's all going to be positive and rainbows and unicorns from here on.
We'll see about that. So anyway, in other feedback.
In other feedback,
we have a new Patreon patron.
A new Patreon patron, indeed. This is our friend Adam Sives. Actually, it's pronounced Sivers, but it's spelled Sives.
Okay, yeah. Pronounced Sivers.
Adam is from Merrickville, Australia.
Another Australian.
What he claims to be the coffee capital of the universe.
Wow. So, I've heard that before too. That there's some good coffee in Australia, and
well, there's apparently some good coffee and some good country music going on.
Yeah, really.
You want to read this? You want to read this email?
Okay, so Adam says, listening to your podcast is a great little escape for me. It's like I'm hanging out with friends and talking about music, which is actually my favorite thing to do. See?
Yeah.
See? Okay. Anyway, you're both helping me on my musical adventure, and I really can't thank you enough. My instruments, piano, guitar, singing. I'm in a country music band. We perform regularly in the inner west of Sydney. Oh, congratulations. I work in IT and am trying to transition into music performance and composition full time. Oh, you'll get paid so much more in IT.
Use your IT money. Save up your
Use
IT
your
money.
IT money for some guitars and equipment.
Let us not discourage.
Anyway, I look forward to many more years of singing, playing, and performing. And thank you so much, Adam. It's always so great to hear from our friends down in Australia. We have a few of them now.
Yeah, we do.
Which is just great.
And now I have a special place in my heart for Australia because obviously we have so many friends and fans down there, but now they're suffering some pretty hardcore fire.
Right, yeah. I heard about that. I hope everybody is safe and your homes are safe and you can get back to your regular lives as soon as possible.
Breathe some clean air finally.
Yeah.
Anderson Lane, Chris Owen, John Church, Roselle, Chris Waite, John Campbell, Andy Fuller, Maddie Stern. I mean, just to name a few, all these people, Australian listeners.
Yeah.
And we were thinking about you guys. You're in our head and in our hearts.
Indeed.
And you too, Adam. And thanks again for your Patreon patronage.
Indeed.
Okay.
All right.
So let's move on. We have a listener mail, actually, here. Let's see here. I guess I'll take this one, huh?
Okay.
We got an email from a listener named Gadiel A. Salcido. Gadiel A. Salcido from Las Cruces, New Mexico. And they found us on Spotify. Gadiel found us on Spotify. Gadiel says, the reason why I found your show was because I recently became interested in music theory for my own knowledge and to help start a band. I'm entering my senior year of high school and learning the basics of guitar and piano. Senior in high school.
Very nice.
We got another young listener.
Indeed. With a bright musical future.
Sounds like it. I already know how to read music since I've attended orchestra class before.
Excellent.
At such an early age. That's pretty cool. After hearing your episode on music careers, it made me think. Because I absolutely love music, playing and learning about it, but I haven't found a real passion to pursue a career in it. My question is, do you have any advice on starting a music career later after I graduate and knowing how to start a band, as well as knowing what to do if we don't get noticed? Whether we get noticed or not, I want to be able to learn and play music.
Well, that last sentence says it all. Whether you get noticed or not,
That's the key.
Yeah. Do I have any advice about starting a career later?
Oh, well, bear in mind, this is later to Gadiel, but not to me, in my opinion. This is just out of high school.
Yeah, so this is not later, I mean, there's an old South Park quote, there's a time and a place for everything and it's called college. I mean, really, didn't you start your musical career mostly in college? Because I know I did.
I did, but I was already playing in a band in high school, and I knew that I wanted to keep on doing it.
Yeah, I played in a band in high school too, but it was certainly nothing that was ever going to get noticed, right?
In our generation, it was kind of like, you go to college.
Yeah.
You graduate high school, you go to college.
You go to college, and that's kind of where life begins for a lot of people, know.
But not obviously everyone's going to go to college.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. If Gadiel does go to college, then this is going to be an easy question to answer. There are all kinds of musicians on most college campuses. Look for message boards. Look for we're old, so we were back in the days where it's like we need a guitar player, and there's the little tabs, and you take one, and you call the number, right? Yeah.
The message board was literally a message board.
It was literally like a bulletin board, and they would cut the little tabs with the numbers in the bottom of the flyer, and you tear it off, and and go and call those people. But look for online message boards. Look for groups around town. Stay in touch with your friends. People from orchestra class who are still pursuing music and things like that. Look for Facebook groups. We have one. Even,
yes, we do.
That are musical oriented and
the Music Student 101 Facebook group with an exclamation point.
Right. So, make an effort to stay in touch with a musical community, because that's how you stay involved in music and don't kind of go off and let it go. Stay involved with a musical community to the best of your ability. Go see bands.
Yeah, that's the thing, man. I mean, that to me. I found that when I was trying to really get myself into the music community, I found that when I go out and see shows, and then at the end go up to the performers and just compliment them,
right?
Just say something,
say, "Hey, I really enjoyed your set."
Oh yeah, I mean, don't overdo it, of course, but I think everyone appreciates that, if not just a little bit.
Yeah.
But I always found that that's one way to stay on people's radar.
Yeah.
A little compliment goes a long way. Positive energy goes a long way. People remember that stuff.
Yeah, being someone who you've actually had a conversation with goes a long way. A little anecdote: one of the bands that I played in for the longest amount of time and had some of the most success with, I actually ended up in that band because I went to see them at a show and did exactly what you said. I came up later between sets and said, "Hey, you guys are really great. I really enjoyed you're set. I said this to the drummer,
Mm-hmm.
who then replied, "Oh, thanks, man. Yeah, I don't know what we're going to do. Our bass player is moving out of town, and we don't have another one yet." Like, just that easy. And I was like, well, you know. And I ended up playing bass for that band and for years after that. And like I said, it was one of the most successful projects I ever did.
And all you did was made the decision to just walk up there.
Just walk up and say, hey, great set. Yeah.
And it sounds like Gadiel is very interested in starting a band. So when you're doing that, I would certainly say choose your members wisely.
Well, that's always extra work. You know, starting it from scratch is always, you know, an exercise in patience. Be patient. Stay involved in the community. Make sure people know, you know, your friends, musical or not, you know, or definitely, you know, musical friends. Make sure people know, hey, I'm trying to put a project together. Mm-hmm. You know, if you have anybody you think, you know, I should talk to or something, you know, keep that afloat. That's always going to be extra work starting it from scratch. And and yeah, choose, you know, try to as best you can. Sometimes depending on where you are, you have to kind of deal with the musicians that are in your community, you know. But to the extent that you can, yeah, try to work with people who you think fit what you're wanting to do.
Like-minded people also.
Like-minded people, yeah.
Attitudes. I mean, there's lots of egos and attitudes in the music world. You
yeah,
don't want to be stuck
they're hard
with...
to avoid. But you know, try to center yourself around positive people, like-minded people. You know, people who aren't, you know, don't have any drug addictions or anything like that. You know.
Man, we won't even get into all that. Yeah, but yeah, check for that kind of stuff.
Yeah, be careful with that. You know, people that have, you know, comparable work ethic to you. You know,
or to
all
me,
that stuff is important.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think that the main thing is to go into it realistically. Mm-hmm. Knowing that I'm here to really make good music and play good music with good people, make people happy, entertain people, make them move, make them jump and dance.
Yeah.
Make the world a little bit better, a little bit happier with music.
And be patient.
You
know, don't be trying to get noticed the first project you ever do, right? Mm-hmm. You know, do it for the love of it. Do it for the sake of putting music out into the world, and you know, the noticed part will happen. Mm-hmm. Eventually,
people notice passion, you know. And
people notice passion.
If you have enough passion in something to do it, like actually go to school for it, or actually decide that's going to be your career or your direction, it's probably going to show in what you do.
That's great advice. That's great advice outside of music. People notice passion in whatever you do. I think
it's a little cliche, but it's true.
People notice passion and enthusiasm and love. Mm-hmm. You know, yeah.
So we wish you all the best of luck, Gadiel.
Indeed.
Thanks for writing in. It's always good to hear from another listener.
Good luck. You've got all the time in the world. You're just now graduating high school. That is...
The world is your oyster.
Yes.
Don't do drugs.
Don't do drugs. Seriously, don't do drugs.
Don't do too many drugs. Don't do a lot of drugs.
Don't do drugs. Don't do the wrong kind of drugs.
Yeah. Choose your drugs wisely.
Heroin is a bad idea.
Heroin, yeah, that's like way up there.
That's always a bad idea.
There's not been a lot of successful heroin stories, sadly.
I don't know of one.
Me neither. I thought we were going to be positive. Let's get.
Okay, that is positive. Don't do drugs is positive. What are you talking about? Okay.
All right. Let us move on, shall we? Let us begin this episode.
Let us begin this episode. See, this is exactly what we were talking about. You know, okay. All right.
What, digressions?
Us?
Oh, yeah.
No.
All right, man. So, now here's a funny thing. I remember not too long ago, we had an episode where I was talking about how we're getting towards the end of the year. Mm. And I like to go back and see all my part ones and see if that can make a part two out of it. Well, yes. I make a part one assuming there'll be a part two. But right. I said foolishly that we had covered everything about the Augmented Six chord. I lied.
Funny thing, those.
Yeah. So I found a few more chapters, or a few more paragraphs anyways, and I found a way to make the most of them, and I think we're going to spend this episode talking about that.
There are some kind of, and in the music theory world, they're almost treated as footnotes, you know, as you're alluding to the Augmented Six chord. Not entirely unjustifiably so. I mean, these are the less common occurrences in the classical music repertoire of the Augmented Six chord. Mm-hmm. So in most theory books, they will, you know, have a few short paragraphs to say, okay, oh, and by the way, you almost can hear the by the way in the sort of the narrative, right? Or, by the way, you can also do this and this and this other thing. Now moving on to something else, but they do represent. If you're writing your own music or harmonizing your own melodies or whatever, they can come up. They can be some really interesting and not entirely overdone uses of these chords.
Now that's a good point. If you want it to sound original.
If you want it to sound original, these are some things to think about because they haven't happened just 100,000 times already, know. So yeah. So what are we talking about?
Well, we talked about the three main types of. Maybe just to recap real quick, we talked about the three main types of Augmented Six chords.
Right, the three nationalities as they were.
Yeah, the Italian.
Right.
Do you want to show a quick example?
Sure,
or talk about
I can just real quickly. So let's just be in C major for our recap here.
That would be great. Actually, let's just stay in C major this whole episode.
No.
All right.
Well, we probably will a lot, but
we'll
yeah.
come back to it.
So let's just be in C major. So an Italian augmented six chord, which is going to have a flat six, a scale degree flat six.
Right. Not a flat six.
That becomes important.
Yeah.
Scale degree flat six, scale degree 1, and scale degree sharp 4. And then it will usually resolve to 5, which then,
Go to 1.
So it's a nice. It's got great little chromatic implications, and then it can even do. Kind of thing going on, but yeah. So that's the Italian.
That's the Italian. That's
Yes.
the most simple.
This is the simplest one.
The elements of the Italian are all included in the German and the French as well.
Right. Yeah. So every augmented six chord has scale degree flat 6, scale degree sharp 4, and scale degree 1. They all have that. So flat 6 moving down to scale degree 5, and sharp 4 moving up to scale degree 5 is the sort of the fundamental motion and reason for this chord, right? So they kind of push out into a 5 chord.
And as they're pushing in different directions, you can pretty well assume that parallel fifths won't be a concern.
Not an option, right? So
not for these notes, not for these pitch classes.
Yeah, that's that main motion to. So and then in the Italian chord we add 1, scale degree 1, which then does the
Okay.
Yeah, and then in the French augmented 6 chord, still in C major, we still go to flat 6 in the bass. We still have a sharp 4 in there, and we still have a 1, to which we add scale degree 2. So,
Jeez.
Yeah.
To me, French is the most tense.
Yeah.
But you think you said it sounded more Frenchy, right?
It's not. Yeah. That sounds very Frenchy to me.
There's a whole tone feel to it, right?
Yeah.
Because of that second note in there.
And I'm doing this in some serious closed position here. I mean, we could also. What could we do? There's something like that.
Yeah. So that's the French.
That's French. And then, kind of the most famous, I guess, for whatever reason, is the German augmented 6. We go down to scale degree flat 6.
Still got that.
Yeah, we still have scale degree 1 and scale degree sharp 4. And we then add flat 3, scale degree flat 3.
Where is it? I don't hear it. That guy.
There.
Okay.
Yeah. And this one often resolves to cadential motion.
Nice.
Kind of the most famous one, most typically resolves to cadential motion. Can be reinterpreted as a 5/7 and modulate that way. We discussed that previously, and so those are the 3 basic ones.
Right.
Yeah.
So now I think now that we established that, we can start talking about some other uses of these standard augmented six chords?
There are other functions that they can have. For example, they can be a neighbor chord. So you can use these much like we have we talked about the common tone diminished 7 yet?
I think so.
All right. Well, we'll cut this out if not. So you can use them in much the same way as the common tone diminished 7. This is in some cases called an embellished augmented 6 or a neighbor augmented 6. You can, like, for example, let's be in the key of G.
All right.
Yeah, that's not so bad.
Just one more sharp. Yeah, just one sharp.
And I'm going to be in the key of G, and then I'm going to go 1. And then I'm going to go 5/7, all right? And then from that 5/7, I'm going to create a little German augmented 6. So I'm going to go E flat, B flat, C sharp, and G, and then back to that 5/7.
Wow.
Right? Pretty cool, huh?
Yeah. It's even cooler that you could just do that on the fly. This has been the most painful of all the stuff we've done. My brain has never hurt more than trying to spell these and put these together when I try to do my examples.
Yeah, and I think we'll give you some tips on that
Please.
in a minute. But yeah, just to do that a little bit again.
Sure, please.
1. That's a 5/7. Yeah. And then we're going to move to that German augmented 6 very briefly. Back to 5/7.
Nice.
Yeah. So just a neighboring motion.
And
where
again,
I use flat 6 and sharp 4 and and created that. Scale degree flat 3 with B flat and scale degree 1 with G. Yeah.
And we talked about in the non-chord tones episode on how neighboring notes they start where they're at, they go either up or down, and then they return to where they started.
Yeah, right. We're calling this a neighbor augmented 6 because of the bass motion. D, E flat, D.
Yeah.
That's our neighbor note. So. Oops, sorry. There we go. Yeah.
Now, in my studies, I found one of the authors mentioning that this can weaken the use. It can weaken the predominant function. Can you think of why that might be?
It can weaken the predominant function.
So, if we go from 1 to 5 to 1.
Yes.
And so that's supposed to be, they're suggesting that's the 5 itself is a stronger predominant function.
Yes.
Compared to if we go 1, 5, German, 5, 1. Right? So the German kind of in between bookcased in between those two 5 chords is somehow messing with the foundation of a 5.
It is prolonging that dominant function, right? It's a dominant function prolongation. It's just as any chord made out of neighbor notion is.
So in my mind, that would strengthen it, I would think, because it adds time and tension, right?
Which is the opposite of a cadence. So I could see the concept that adding time and tension detracts from the idea that this is a finality, that this is the end of something, because you're dragging that something out. I can see the concept behind that. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Very interesting.
So it weakens the notion that what you've arrived at is a cadence. I can see that.
Now, on a similar note, it seems that other chords can come between this augmented chord, and the 5 chord.
Yeah.
Have you run across that, or can we?
So the Italian augmented 6 chord is a chord of predominant function. Right? And this is not just true with augmented 6 chords. It's kind of true in general that you can sort of string predominant functioning chords together. When we go 6, 2, those are 2 predominant chords strung together, or 2, 4. And this also happens in augmented 6 chords. I'm going to be here in the key of D major. D, 1, 5, 1, D major.
Adding another sharp, getting bold.
And in D major, I'm going to spell my Italian augmented 6 chord, which is going to involve a B flat, a D, and an G sharp, right?
Sharp 4.
Yeah. And from here, I am going to go to a 7 of 5. So I'm going to then go from B flat to B, and then keep my D.
Keeping the D, keeping the G sharp.
And then F.
Yeah.
And this is actually a 7, 6, 5 of 5, with the third in the bass. Moving
Inversion.
to 5, 6, with the third in the bass. And then,
Interesting.
Yeah, so I just put a little secondary 7th chord in between that Italian augmented 6 and the 5 chord to which it eventually resolved.
How did you know that would flow so smoothly as you did that?
Well, it's all chromaticism, really.
Okay, so relative to chromaticism.
Yeah,
but
so,
still it sounds pretty smooth.
Yeah, so flat 6, natural 6, right? And then 7. That's a smooth bass line, right? It also provides for that kind of motion in the soprano. How did I know that would flow so smoothly? Well, this is just kind of the way music works.
Predominants can typically go together, I guess.
Yeah, and this is why predominants typically go together, and this is why we try to think horizontally, right? I mean, if I am in an Italian augmented 6 here, and typically we go to 5. If I want to sort of defy that typicalness and go up, it's like, all right, well, that's a little awkward, right? So I'm just going to add a chord in between those just to smooth it out a little bit, right? And it needs to be a predominant functioning chord because this augmented 6 chord is going to eventually resolve to 5, right? So I just did my little 5, 6, 5. You think I'd be able to play this by this point, but can even make it a French augmented 6. We like that, right?
Yes, we do.
And then
7 of 5.
7 of 5. 5, 6.
Yeah, okay. First inversion.
5, 1.
1, okay, yeah.
So 1, French augmented 6, 7, 6, 5 of 5, 5, 6, 1. Pretty cool, huh?
Pretty cool indeed.
Yeah.
So it looks like some common examples are the 5 of 5, and the 7 of 5, like you just did.
7 of 5, 5 of 5.
5 of 5.
Those are typically more common because they kind of are easier on the part writing,
right?
On the voice leading. And the composers who use these kinds of chromaticisms were all about the chromaticisms. They have more of that too.
Nice, yeah. This was very, very common in the Romantic period, right?
Late Romantic period, yeah.
Yeah. And then does this when this happens, are we kind of saying that, let's see here, is the function of the augmented 6 chord being bumped a little bit by this chord in between, or are we going to kind of call this all one big predominant moment? You know what I mean?
These are predominant functions. So I would call this all a predominant moment.
Like a predominant happening.
Yeah.
Even in those 3 chords too.
Yeah, I mean, think about what you could do if you're playing actual music. It's a French augmented 6.
Yeah. Dreamy.
Yeah.
Tense. Dreamy but tense.
And it was all,
The monsters finally went away. And the sun came out.
Sunny.
Yeah.
Less sunny.
Clouds. A little bit of rain. We're good again.
Yeah. So you can stretch this out for a pretty long time if you're a genius composer like Brahms or Mendelssohn or somebody like that. Then you can start thinking about where it's going from there. You know, I mean, this could keep just going up. Neapolitan, maybe. You know, 5 of 5. You know, 5 of 5 resolving deceptively to something. I don't know. You know. Anyway,
yeah. Okay, so we found that sometimes chords, like you just did, the 7 of 5, and then often the 5 of 5 can sometimes come between this, you know, German augmented or any kind of augmented 6 chord.
Absolutely.
I'm seeing where on occasion it'll move to a passing 6/4 chord.
Yeah,
rather than a cadential 6/4.
Rather than a cadential 6/4 chord. So German augmented 6 chords do this particularly well. You know, they just resolve to a 1/6/4 so well, right? But you can be in a key. We're still in D major, and you know you can do a German augmented 6 chord. You know, had a little passing note there.
Nice.
That then resolves to a 1/6/4, which itself is passing. So that's 4, right?
Yeah.
And then I'm 1/6. And then 5 passing 6/4 to 5. Yeah.
There we are.
And then back to 1. So I just went to a chord other than 5 after that, right? And that sort of really stretching and prolonging out the predominant function of that German augmented 6 chord, right? Because the 5 that it gets to is even further away.
Right.
Yeah, it's almost like a deceptive resolution.
Totally, yeah. And as we know that the cadential 6/4 normally goes to 5,
right.
What made this more of a passing rather than cadential is the fact that you went on to 4.
Yep.
And then had to continue to work your way back to that 1.
Yep.
Which I really appreciate. And I'm sure some of our listeners really appreciate that you gave us that resolution.
Yeah, it's funny. How do you string chords together to make a piece of music, right? You're not doing that. What you're doing is stringing together functions, right? So, tonic function to our German augmented 6, which is a predominant, to our passing 1/6/4, which is just a passing chord, right? Meaning it's passing to 4, predominant, and then 1/6, which is passing again, and then finally to a dominant function in 5/6. And I mean, I could have continued to be obnoxious with this, you know. I could have gone to 6 from there, to whatever. That's 6, and then
2, 5, 1.
Yeah. I mean, I could. Yeah. This is how we create music, right?
Yeah.
Once you do 5/1, it's over. So the idea is how long can you put that off, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah. This is counterpoint, really.
Yeah. Well, let us move on, shall we? Because
yes,
we have
let's.
Other considerations.
We don't want to digress.
And we have other considerations for
yes.
some of these positions, right?
Some other considerations. For one thing, bass position.
Yeah.
This is a consideration. So although we've been talking about flat 6 being the bass note of our augmented 6 chords, and the overwhelmingly most frequent occurrence is that. Like 90% of the time, flat 6 is the bass note.
So I asked you a question earlier, and that was, what would you call the root of an augment? Would the flat 6 actually be considered theoretically the root?
Theoretically, the root
of an augmented 6 chord.
For ease of discussion, we sometimes think of it as a quote-unquote root. It's not really a root. This isn't really this is a chord that, and I'm trying to think now if it has a perfect fifth in it. I don't believe so.
I don't think it does.
So this isn't really a chord that has a root, right? We like to think of the flat 6 as sort of our starting note.
Yes, in fact, it's only the German that has a third in it.
It's only the German that even has a third, that has a traditional third in it.
Yeah.
So we think of it as a root. It's not really the root. There really isn't a root. So.
Yeah. It is said to be a linear sonority.
It is, yeah, that is how I would describe it. Is it a linear sonority? This is a chord that is the function of counterpoint. We went, we brought in some chromatic notes and went a half step below 5 to make a sharp 4 and a half step above 5 to make a flat 6, and then harmonized that with other notes, scale to be 1 or 2 or scale to be flat 3 or what have you, to create this sonority. But its primary function is a linear sonority. Yeah, this is not a chord in the vertical sense, really.
Yeah. Very interesting. Well, let's see here. And we're going to get into one of these later on, but I think that one of the more common uses that I've come across is actually the inversion. This might be considered, again, we're not talking about a chord.
This is where the headache starts to come on right here.
Tell me about it, man. This is what I consider to be the third inversion, where the sharp 4 that is normally in the upper voice is now occupying the bass voice.
Right.
So let's talk about that. Let's listen to that.
Okay, well, first of all, let's talk about considering it the third inversion. Because just to be clear, a chord with no actual root does not actually have an inversion.
Yes.
So we're talking about this in a sense for ease of discussion, not in a sense of how the music actually works. And one little nitpicky problem I have with that is, does this make discussion particularly easy? I don't know. I think it's probably easier, rather than worrying about what inversion it is, to simply say that it is that scale degree sharp 4 that we put in the bass in some instances. So what key should I be in? Let's go back to C. Jeremy will appreciate that.
Yeah.
So I can make a German augmented 6 by having, well, first let's do something fun. Let's 1 5 1 minor borrowed 1 6.
Oh, dude.
And then our sharp 4 of the German augmented 6, sharp 4, flat 6, all right?
So weird.
And then 1 and flat 3.
Wow. This is German?
Yes.
Wow. That inversion makes a difference.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So let's see see if I can clean that up a little bit. I might be in a different position up here. So,
yeah, if we can get that bass a little bit lower so we can kind of...
Yeah, all right, so...
Yeah.
1. So, I'll just do 1, passing 5 6 4 to 1 6 to German augmented 6 to 1 6 4, right? Cadential motion. To 5 1.
So in that case, that sharp 4 in the bass went right up to the root of the following chord.
Went right up to resolved half step up to G. Yeah. So, and you will hear people call when the sharp 4 is in the bass, we'll hear that called diminished third. What we have done, they call it that because theoretically what you have done is inverted that interval. So between the flat 6 and the sharp 4, that is the interval of an augmented 6.
Yes.
Which is why we call it that. When you reverse those, you get the interval of a diminished third.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So rather than A flat to F sharp, which is an augmented 6, we have F sharp to A flat, which is a diminished third, right? And so you'll hear it referred to as the diminished third quality. I would still call it augmented 6. Just again, for ease of discussion. If all we're doing is doing this for ease of discussion, then let's make the discussion easy. That's an augmented 6 chord.
But I'm going to bring that back up later on. Yes, I will. Hey, here's another cool thing about these all. Because there is no supposed or official root, there's really no sense in fussing with bass inversion symbols. In fact, with augmented chords, I understand, we don't do 6 5, 6 4.
We really, really don't.
Yeah.
With all augmented 6 chords, it's just Italian augmented 6, French augmented 6, German augmented 6. And as you surmise, I don't even mess with like German diminished third or anything like that. It's just German augmented 6, French augmented 6. Yeah.
Right on. That's interesting. Okay, I think this is a good place to stop for today.
Sounds like it.
Because we have plenty more information. We have a lot more information, but this really hurts my brain. And I imagine some people are probably in pain right now, too.
Probably.
You'd really have to sit down at a piano or whatever your instrument is and kind of mess around with these and just play with the sounds.
I think, yeah.
But there's so many more examples to go. I think we should just hold off for part 3. Okay, so we're going to leave that right where it is.
Yes.
When we come back, we're going to talk about some other interesting things. I don't know if it'll be the immediately next episode.
We will come back to the Augmented Six chords, though.
Funny, isn't it?
Veritable font of material out of these things.
So we'll be talking about resolutions to different scale degrees.
Mm-hmm.
We'll be talking about resolutions to different chord members.
Mm-hmm. We'll talk about augmented six chords that move.
Mm-hmm. The moving 6 chord.
Yep.
The diminished third chord, which we kind of touched on.
We kind of touched on a little bit, yeah.
Different strokes for different folks on that one.
Yep.
And then the secondary.
And then the secondary augmented 6 chords.
Which I'm pretty excited about, actually.
Yeah. You must unlearn everything you have learned.
Yeah. Well, before we get out of here, maybe it would be good to do a recap.
Let's do some quick recap of some things we've learned about augmented 6 chords up until now.
All right.
For now, we know what an augmented 6 chord is at this point, hopefully. Mm-hmm. You know, we have the Italian Augmented 6. Which goes to 5, right?
And that's scale degree.
That is scale degree flat 6, scale degree 1, and scale degree sharp 4.
Uh-huh.
We have the French Augmented 6, which has the scale degree 2 in it.
Mm-hmm.
So that is scale degree flat 6, scale degree sharp 4, scale degree 1, and scale degree 2.
Mm-hmm. That's French.
Right, that's French. And then we have the German, which is scale degree flat 6, scale degree 1, scale degree flat 3, and scale degree sharp 4.
And of course, the flat 6 normally resolves down a half step to 5, or to the tonic.
Yeah, and the sharp 4 normally resolves a half step up to scale degree 5.
And I said tonic, but I meant the root of the following chord.
Right. Yeah. So some other things we can do is use these as neighbor chords, which we so 1 and then 5, and then German Augmented 6. Yeah, to 5. Right? Mm-hmm. So we can use them as neighbor chords, neighboring around that 5, moving 5 back, and things like that. We can add other predominant functioning chords in between the augmented 6 chord and the 5. Mm-hmm. And our most common ones are 7 of 5 or 5 of 5. Mm-hmm. So, for example, I can be in D major, and I can have a French Augmented 6, which moves to 7 of 5. Let's do 5, 6. And then 1. So we can put a 7 of 5 between that augmented 6 chord and the 5, to which it was resolving. We can also create augmented 6 chords that do not resolve directly to 5. So we can do, come here. And have that resolve to a passing chord. Like, for example, 1, 6, 4, which then goes on to B4. And then do whatever we do.
Okay.
Yeah. Flat scale degree flat 6, the most commonly found note of an augmented 6 chord in the bass. Mm-hmm. other notes can also be in the bass occasionally. When there's a note that's not scale degree flat 6 as the bass note, it is scale degree sharp 4 that is the bass note, and it will generally still resolve up to scale degree 5.
Ooh, and I don't know if we mentioned this earlier, but I think that the next most common would be the root. As far as the bass position is concerned, next, flat 6, then sharp 4, then maybe the root.
The root of the yeah.
For obvious reasons, because
By root you mean scale degree 1.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it would be scale degree 1.
Thanks for keeping my nomenclature in check.
Hey, it gets important at this point,
Yes,
right?
it does.
We've got a lot of different nomenclature, and because we don't actually have a root of this chord, Jeremy. We don't really consider Augmented Six chords to be in any kind of inversion. No matter what note is in the bass, we always just call it Italian Augmented Six or German Augmented Six or French Augmented Six.
Right. So those inversion symbols, superscript, inversion symbols don't necessarily apply.
Right.
Very cool.
All right.
Does that cover it for
Feeling
now?
pretty good about this? Yeah, it covers it for now.
I feel better about this because there's so much more to say, but we're going to take a little break before we say it again.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. This has been fun, and there's something very beautiful and magical about this Augmented Six chord. I don't use it enough, mainly because if I'm sitting there composing music, I gotta sit down there and start doing math and thinking and figuring
Yeah,
out
talk about hurting your brain, right?
But when I sat down
You
and
should try to do it in 3 keys. I have a polytonal piece. It was actually my dissertation piece where there are 3 simultaneous keys that go to 3 simultaneous Augmented Six chords, embellished Augmented Six chord, so neighboring and then back to 3 simultaneous dominants. And
Not to digress, but I'm curious about something, Matt. If you are doing a piece that is in 3 keys, do you just take the most commonly used of all 3 and then put that in the key signature and then add sharps and flats to everything else? Or
that is a whole other podcast.
Okay. Very good. Yeah, polytonality.
Yeah.
One fine day.
One fine day indeed. For now, have fun practicing your German Augmented Six chords. I want to hear some music on our next listener episode that features some interestingly done German Augmented Six chords.
Yes, and that episode will be coming up pretty soon.
You have homework, people. And we will see you very soon.
Yeah.
There's actually plenty more to say about these evocative chords. And that's no lie. So, keep on listening. Thanks again. And if you wish to support us financially, you can do so at patreon.com/musicstudent101.